Yes, if I like went through.
Good evening, everyone.
Gahanna.
Goodness. At this time, I'd like to call to order the September 7th meeting, regular meeting of Gahanna City Council, and ask for the invocation and pledge by Mrs. McGregor.
Thank you. Father God, we thank you for your many blessings. We ask for your wisdom and courage as we as we make decisions for the city of Gahanna. We ask for your comfort for the families of the Marines who were killed in Afghanistan last week. As always, we ask for the protection of the men and women of our armed and police forces. Amen. Amen. For the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Angelou? Here. Bowers? Here. Lyric?
Here.
Leesburg?
Here.
McGregor?
Here.
Brenner?
Here.
Schnetzer?
Here. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda this evening? None appearing. We'll have hearing of visitors. Mayor, you have a proclamation?
I do, thank you. Excuse me for 1 second while I get wired up. If I can ask the Rout family to come forward. So, allow me to introduce to you Justin and Shannon Roat, and Emma and Logan and Olivia. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I know last year I issued a proclamation for that, and we presented the proclamation to a lovely Gahanna family outside of City Hall, and it is wonderful to be able to be here with you to talk about this very important month recognition. These people have an incredible story. There was a story that ran on NBC4 over the weekend, I think it ran. Olivia has been diagnosed with DIPG. Don't ask me to say what that means. I'll let you speak in a moment. It is an extremely rare form of cancer that tends to strike children. And the chance of survival with children who are issued with DIPG is not very good. However, this family has decided to put hope and faith above fear and above the odds. And I believe they will have all of our prayers and all of our support as you battle through this. Olivia here loves children's yoga. She loves to do that. And I know her big sister Emma and her little brother Logan are a big source of support for her as well. But just childhood cancer awareness, just so you know, statistics, 1 in 285 children in the United States will be diagnosed with cancer by the time they are 20. And I know I have a family member myself who was 16 when he was diagnosed as well. Luckily, he's doing well, but it does hit families, many families. 43 children per day, or 15,780 children annually, are diagnosed with cancer in the United States, and with approximately 40,000 children in active treatment at any given time. I'm not going to read the entire proclamation, but I do hope that you will join with me in recognizing the importance of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and to congratulate and to thank the Root family for their courage and their valor as they continue this battle, and know that you have the full support and prayers of the city of Gahanna. So thank you for coming here tonight. Olivia, can I present this to you? Can I give that to you? Would you like to take that one? Yeah? Okay. You're here. There you go. Ready? You want to open it? You want to hold it down? Ready? Oh, there you go, sunshine.
Look right there. Emma, look right there.
Makes your heart.
Thank you very much. Shannon, do you want to say a word or two? Shannon or Justin, do you want to say just a word or two? Uh-huh.
I just want to thank the city of Gahanna, our awesome mayor, and the entire city council. There's a reason we live in this city, and the support has been amazing. Thank you all very much.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Sorry, need a minute. At this time, we do have a speaker slip. Ms. Hoffman, if you would like to approach the podium and give your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council. My name is Brenda R. Hoffman. I live at
Can't hear you
279.
very well.
Good evening, Council.
There you
My
go.
name is Brenda Hoffman. I live at 279 High Meadow Drive, Gahanna, Ohio. I appreciate you listening to me for the last 4 years about my pet project, which is, for God's sakes, we need to do something with the freaking sidewalks. And I'm really happy to see that that's coming on. I looked at the agenda late and I noticed the ordinance for emergency for EMH&T, and I'm concerned because of my 4 years of experience with not getting things done, not having responses. Oh, we don't have the money. Oh, we don't have enough code enforcement officers. We don't have enough project managers. We don't have enough money. And all of that's gone by the wayside, and now we have a $73,000 some odd dollar contract. And the contract in and of itself is not the problem. The problem is that we don't know why this is not going to be accomplished by our city employees. And the reason that I'm sensitive to that is I just went through, and am still going through, a really crappy place with Strausser. And I'm still not happy to have someone tell me that, oh, it's okay, the city paid for that part of this corner pour, and it doesn't matter. But it does matter because this has been a long battle, and we set standards for a reason. We're saying that we're using the Columbus drawings, that's 2319. They should match 2319. We don't need to say that everything is a prior existing condition or the prior constraints. We really need to do this and do it right so that it lasts. And how can you afford to do it over when you can't afford to do it right in the first place? So I have concerns about this. I have questions about it. And the specific questions are, why are our people not doing all of this? And if we do have to have EMH&T do it, why are we saying 3-year contract with 3-1 hits, 3-1 ups? I mean, wouldn't our folks be great to say after a year we have a template? We can do this ourselves, because Brian Reynolds has been inspecting sidewalks, for better or worse, for 25 years, or 20 some odd years at least. And there were problems, but when we have good code and we train our people, they can do a good job. And we're in the position now with all of this new staff and these really into it, wide aware engineers to do this the right way. And I'm concerned that a third party is not going to look at this the same way as our city employees do, because Strausser really, really screwed us on how they act and interacted with the residents in my neighborhood. People are still complaining, even though the grass is up. They're still complaining about the dirt going over the trash piles at the pours. So I'd just like you guys to really give this a good review and ask some good questions, because I don't understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to item D, the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda by Mr. Leesburg, seconded by Mr. Renner. Roll call?
Leesburg,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Lyric,
Yes.
McGregor,
Yes.
Schnetzer,
Yes.
Angelo.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving to item E, ordinances for introduction and first reading. We have ordinance 0054, 2021.
Mr. President, I'll introduce the items under E.
Thank you. And item F, we have ordinances for introduction, waiver, and emergency adoption. The first item is ordinance 0051, 2021, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contract with EMH&T for sanitary sewer evaluation survey, SSES, smoke and dye testing services, waive second reading, and to declare an emergency. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance
moved.
0051? Motion by Mr. Renner. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Renner, second by Ms. Bowers. Any discussion?
Mr. President, I'd move that we bring this back to committee next week. I've got several questions on this one. A lot of it has to do with the financing. The mayor and I spoke just before the meeting on some of it, but there's lots of questions about the existing contract with Burgess Nyepel. Again, that contract's not yet done. That work's not yet done. We're starting a new contract. The reason for the emergency waiver on this one was, again, so that we could take advantage of the dry weather in August and September. I mean, this was brought to us in August, and we'll be halfway through September by the time this thing gets approved. So, again, I'm not seeing the reason for the emergency and waiver on this, and I'd love to have it come back next week.
Is that a motion?
Yes, please.
You have a motion
I have
to
a motion to postpone date
for 2
certain.
weeks?
For 2 weeks, please.
Is there a second?
Mr. President, I'll just add a comment prior to the second, that I know I've been in similar situations where I've had some questions, and I've always had the support of my council colleagues to bring things back. So in that spirit, I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Leesburg and a second by Mr. Schnetzer to postpone ordinance 0051-2021 to date certain of 9/20? Yes, 9/20. Any discussion on the motion to postpone to date certain?
I was going to help, but this is last year's calendar. Never mind.
I guess just a question. So this is specifically for the smoke and dye testing. Could Mr. Leesburg explain how this interacts with the Burgess and Nyepel contract that you referenced?
Well, again, the reason for the emergency and waiver per the description of it was so that we can get work done in August and September. This wasn't brought to us until the end of August, and it'll be the middle of September before we can get a contract. So I'm not seeing, I guess I'm just not seeing the reason for the emergency waiver. I've got other comments and questions that could probably be better handled at committee of the whole next week. But again, we're not done with the Burgess and Nyepel contract, which, again, this is being piggybacked off of, and then we'll provide more information from there. There's some other questions and concerns as far as funding and those kind of things. So again, I just like to have a chance. This was presented pretty quick 2 weeks ago and asked for emergency and waiver. So
If I could just, and I fully appreciate Mr. Schnetzer's comments about respecting our colleagues' wishes for this to go back to committee, but just so I have an opportunity to understand, what's the, maybe the administration would be willing to explain what the tie-in to the Burgess and Nyepel contract is, and whether this contract needs to wait.
Absolutely. If I can ask, Director Crawford is here. Director Crawford, if you can respond to some of the questions that have been raised.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the tie-in is we initiated SSES Phase 1, which is the Sanitary Sewer Evaluation Survey. Last year following those significant, weather events where raw sewage was in residents' basements. The contract is still ongoing with Burgess and Nyepel. They're still studying the sewers, but we do have preliminary data from the flow models and monitoring the flows during a weather event that there is significant infiltration and inflow in the sewers, specifically in Royal Manor, Brentwood, and those the block of neighborhood right there. The reason that we have brought it forward as an emergency waiver is, as Councilmember Leesburg mentioned, is we want to take advantage of the last remaining dry weather months that we have. Of course, we're not going to do the work if it just decides, Mother Nature decides that's going to continue raining, day in and day out through the rest of the year. But this is our opportunity to step into gathering data from the Phase 2, which funds were already appropriated in the 2021 budget. If it is extended, or if we do bring it back, it is highly unlikely that we'll be able to take advantage of it this year. There is a very small chance that we can, which means that we'll then have to postpone it until next year before we can do any additional work into that Phase 2, which is gathering the data of the actual sources of infiltration and inflow into our public sewers.
Mr. Crawford, could you also speak to Mr. Leesburg's concern about, they just received it a few weeks ago, so what the timing of that was and why it was brought forward when it was?
Yeah, so we received 2 decent rainfalls earlier this year. I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but in those rainfalls, the flow monitors documented significant response in the sewers in the Royal Manor and Brentwood neighborhoods. Once we saw that, and once BNN had an opportunity to review that and analyze and provide us the data, we immediately sought a public RFP. We advertised it, we ranked the firms, and then as soon as we could, we brought it here to council to try and get this in so we can get some work done this year on, smoke and dye testing and getting that next level of data. Again, as I mentioned, if we run into rain, if we go any further, then we're likely going to have to, punt this until next year to take advantage of those dry weather months.
Council, oh, sorry.
Mr. Renner?
Thank you for that explanation, Grant. Could you remind everybody what is the value of doing the smoke and dye testing, and specifically what would this actually illustrate for us in the Royal Manor and Brentwood Estates area?
So smoke and dye testing will find the actual source of infiltration and flow. It'll find the source of how rainwater or groundwater is entering the sewer system. So the process is pumping smoke into the sewers, and then they'll find those cracks or those holes or those areas where water gets in, and you'll start to see smoke percolate up, whether it's through a downspout that's interconnected, or maybe it's a leaky sewer lateral, and you start seeing it percolate through the ground, or in some cases it may up in the house if you find out that they have their floor drains directly tied into this, or not their floor drains, their sump pumps. So that is the purpose of that, is to gain that data so we know exactly how it's getting in. Then once we have that data, we can analyze it and figure out the necessary steps to correct it or make improvements or review it further.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Angela?
Was that done for the Dunbarton Road area where we had it before, close to the freeway? I think we had just as many infiltrations for that very, very large thing. Are they okay now?
So with the flow monitors, they picked up significant response in the sewers in Royal Manor and Brentwood neighborhood. They didn't see that same response in the College Park, so we're waiting for the final result to come out when they plug in the model and see how it's going. But it was very, very evident in Brentwood and Royal Manor that there is a significant, and I mean significant, normally we would want to wait till the final report. However, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's a lot of rainwater or groundwater getting in. Now the trunk sewer that runs through College Park and up to Brentwood and Royal Manor, it's all the same trunk sewer. So once we get this final report, it may show that the issues that Dunbarton and College Park faced was a result of all the rainwater coming in from the top and coming down. So it may not be, College Park that's pushing rainwater and groundwater in. It may be coming downhill from the top.
Okay, now we've had a whole lot of rain in the last few weeks, which should have been dry weeks. So what has that done? Have you found any more issues with those particular areas?
So as I mentioned, there were 2 events earlier this year.
I'm talking about the ones that just have been the huge downpour, what was it, a week ago?
Yeah,
cetera.
So that one was localized heavy rainfall that really affected the eastern portion of Gahanna, primarily the industrial zone. We did not see any response in their sewers, or we did not receive any reports that their sanitary sewer backed up, but of course there was significant flooding all over the streets, all over the basins. Our estimate shows upwards of a 1,000-year storm, which is just unheard of. But the west side and these areas that are in the study area did not receive a rainfall that made any difference in the monitoring.
Thank you, Grant.
Just a procedural question. If this comes back, could this come back as today could be first reading, and then when it comes back,
certainly.
it would be second reading
Absolutely.
with emergency?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any further discussion? I do have one question. It appears that and I believe this is the right detailed document, the document from EMH&T is dated July 26, and this first came to council's agenda on August 23rd.
I would have to look at it. I don't have it in front of me, but it's It's possible by the time that we got it in, we had a chance to review it and send it to the city attorney's office to review. There is a turnaround time for reviewing all the ones that we get, ranking them, going through it, and then, of course, a legal review before it's on your desk.
Certainly. Any further discussion with regard to the postponement? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Just to piggyback a little bit with Ms. Bauer's question, so theoretically, if this does get delayed where it has to go to committee next week, then in 2 weeks, if council so chooses, it comes back as a second reading with emergency and a waiver. Did I hear that correctly?
Wouldn't be a waiver at that point if we do first reading this evening.
You're right.
We
Okay,
already
so
have it.
good, okay, good point. But
It potentially could pass with emergency with the appropriate.
so we're talking about a 2-week delay, probably, but maybe even longer.
Standard procedure would be next regular meeting, which would be 2 weeks from today, minus a day.
The only thing would be the emergency, so that it would
The
take into
emergency would
place.
remain.
Okay, so we're not pulling it off the regular agenda. We're actually just saying, look, we want some more information at the committee.
Yes.
Fine.
So this will be considered first reading? So
So,
if it carries
If I
over to
may.
the...
Yeah, if I may.
Yeah.
The motion is actually to postpone, and what I would just ask to clarify is that we ask that the motion be to have this move to first reading only, and we have this come back to committee.
Back to committee, that's fine.
And so I would word that as the motion is to have the legislation ordinance 0051, 2021, move to first reading and come back to committee.
You want me to make that motion?
Just validate that that's the
Yeah, no,
motion
that's
that's on the
exactly
table.
what I'd like to, yeah, have it come back to committee, and then, is first reading this today, and then come back to committee.
Okay.
Yep,
Is
absolutely.
just to make sure everyone on council is clear
Yeah.
and on the
No,
topic. and-
appreciate
you.
that, yeah, I appreciate that.
Certainly. So that is the motion on the table is to move the ordinance 0051, 2021 to first reading and have it come back to committee next week.
Now we need a
Roll
second.
call.
Now we need a second.
We have a second, Mr. Schnetzer.
Okay.
Are you
Roll
ready
call.
for roll call? Okay. Leesburg,
Yes.
Schnetzer,
Yes.
McGregor,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes?
Angelou,
Yes.
Bowers. Yes. Lyric.
Yes. Motion carries. Ordinance 0051 will be back in committee next week.
Do we need to reintroduce and do the previous, like under E?
We just did through the motion and the
Okay.
vote that we just did. That should suffice, as opposed to being underneath a particular section in the agenda. Moving to ordinance 0052, 2021, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contract with MH&T for the administration of the 2021 to 2023 sidewalk maintenance program, waive second reading, and to declare an emergency. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Renner. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Bowers has seconded ordinance 0052. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Leesburg.
Ordinance 0052. I had several questions that I forwarded to the administration, just received some of them at 4:47 this afternoon, and then actually got the terms and conditions, I think, at a little before 7. So again, I would ask that this be moved to first reading tonight, returning it to committee next week so we can discuss it some more, and then proceed with it from there.
Mr. Schnetzer.
Yeah, again, just a comment here real quick is in the same spirit as I've been the beneficiary of when I've had questions and received support from council colleagues to postpone. I will second Mr. Leesburg's request. We've also received some comments from residents speaking tonight about this particular line item as well. So in that spirit, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Leesburg, a second by Mr. Schnetzer. Discussion. So the motion on the table is to move the agenda, or to have first reading for ordinance 0052, 2021, and return to committee next week. Any discussion? Roll call.
Leesburg,
Yes.
Schnetzer,
Yes.
McGregor,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Angelou,
Yes.
Bowers. Yes. Lyric.
Yes. Motion carries. 0052, 2021 had first reading this evening and will be on the agenda for Council Committee of the Whole next week. Moving to ordinance 0053, 2021, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contract with Miller Cable Company for the repair of Granville Street traffic signals, to request a supplemental appropriation, waive second reading, and to declare an emergency. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 0053?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Renner, second by Mr. Leesburg. Any discussion?
Mr. President, I'd like to, no, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, now what?
I'm just kidding.
Any discussion on 0053, 2021?
Yes, if I could. It looks like from the bids that Jess Howard actually came in total underneath Miller Cable. Could the administration explain perhaps why we're not awarding the contract to Jess Howard?
Yes, that does need clarification because that's not entirely true. So, Mr. Moorhead? Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
I can understand how it could appear that way. However, there are other factors.
Yeah, and they were very close on all items. So the combination of bids here, when we have it listed out as base bid and then alternate bids, in this case, a number of the alternates were basically direct alternates from doing, there's 3 types of foundation repairs. I should back up. The bulk
Could
of
you
the
put the microphone closer, John?
Yeah.
The bulk of the project is repairing the foundations of traffic signals along Granville Street. And because repairing them in place is a difficult task, we provided 3 different options in the bid for these contractors to decide which option they felt they were best suited for and what pricing they could provide for us. We didn't want to force them into one concept that would dictate their means and methods and possibly lead to a higher price. So the alternates that are tallied together in that middle column that you're looking at, that is the combination of 2 different alternate ways to repair the foundations. So we are only authorizing the base bid and then a handful of alternates for upgrading the traffic signals themselves to be a polycarbonate signal head rather than an aluminum that's out there. So in the selection of the base bid plus some of the alternates, Miller Cable Company is the lowest bidder in total. Now, they were still very close to Jess Howard, but the way that the bids and alternates were assembled, Miller Cable is the lowest bidder.
As where Miller, that particular organization, where they are from?
That's a good question. I don't know exactly where they're located.
We do know,
Green Springs, Ohio.
we do know where the other place is.
We
We
do.
can walk right up to them and talk to them.
And we have, and they were very closely involved with us in setting up the temporary signals that are out there now and getting this repair underway. They put in a good bid, but unfortunately, as a public bid goes, we take the lowest and best, and we don't rate them otherwise on location or qualifications.
Any
Saying.
further
Just
discussion?
saying. They're neighbors. Can we-
Any further discussion on 0053, 2021? Roll call?
Renner?
Yes.
Leesburg?
Yes.
Schnetzer?
Yes.
Angelou?
Yes.
Bowers? Yes. Lyric?
Yes.
McGregor?
Yes.
Motion carries. Correspondence and actions. Madam Clerk, do you have anything?
I have nothing.
Council? And representatives, the Community Improvement Corporation, Mr. Leesburg.
Nothing this evening.
Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, Ms. Angelou.
Our regular meeting is on this Thursday, and I'd like to announce that MORPSES announces the Summit on Sustainability in person will be October 15th, 2021, and it's wonderful to have that particular back in where we can go to have lunch and find out all these wonderful things that are happening because of the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Angelou. Convention and Visitors Bureau, Mr. Leesburg.
I have a short report tonight. Everybody is all hands on deck for the Creekside Blues and Jazz Fest, which is September 17th to the 19th. Volunteers are still needed. Tickets are available at creeksidebluesandjazz.com. And there's actually a map that was provided to Crystal that can be added to the minutes. So if anybody's interested in the layout for the festival this year, we'll have that information available.
Thank you. And School Board, Mr. Schnetzer?
Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
And official reports, Madam Mayor.
Yes, thank you. To piggyback off of Councilman Leesburg's comments, I was alerted today from Visit Gahanna that they still need help at admission booths. And I think that Mr. Leesburg previously had shared with them there had been a reach out. In the past, Visit Gahanna has engaged city council members and city staff to staff an admission booth. I believe that's where they still need some substantial help, Saturday and Sunday. So if any council members are interested in that, please let me know, and we'll see if we can get a group together to help them out by staffing an admission gate. This past Saturday, we had Supporting Gahanna Together Day. We had service projects all over the city. I know Councilman Schnetzer and his family was down there. Councilwoman Bowers, I understand, was at Gahanna Woods. If anybody else was down there, I don't know. So thank you, though, too. We had great projects. I was at Pizarro Park with a handful of Girl Scouts and some Rotary members painting and pulling weeds. But we had our Economic Development Manager, Courtney Thrain, had solicited Gahanna businesses, and we had a ton of business specials that were offered, entertainment, Chalk It Up event in partnership with Gahanna Area Arts Council. So appreciate everybody who participated in that. It was great work for the community. This Thursday coming up, Thursday the 9th at 11 a.m., we have a bricklaying ceremony for the latest medical office building that is going in on the Crescent project. I believe all of you have received an invitation. If you're able to join us for that, I would appreciate it. This was the one that was supposed to be a groundbreaking ceremony, but those dang contractors were moving way too fast, and now it's a bricklaying ceremony. So that's great. That's great news. That means the building is going up quickly, and we'll get those jobs in there as quickly as possible. But if you're able to make that, please let us know as well. That is, again, this Thursday at 11 a.m. over at the Crescent. This coming Saturday is the 20th anniversary of September 11th. A day that is still just as vivid in my mind as it was the day that it happened. We are partnering with Mifflin Township and holding a commemorative event on Saturday morning. It will be over at 400 West Johnstown Road, the site of the new communications center. Will be from 8:30 to approximately 9:30 to honor the lives that were lost, our first responders, and the many, many other thousands of people who were lost that day and also in the decades that have followed. Because of illnesses that were contracted and responding and what they experienced that day. I'm not going to go into any further discussion of September 11th because I just can't. It's still 20 years later, and it's still very fresh. But I hope that you'll be able to join us for that. And then finally, if you did not catch it, Channel 10 did a story on our Gahanna Division of Police and their implementation of body-worn cameras. The story aired last night at 6 p.m. It is available online to review. We can send you the link to watch the story as well. I'd like to thank Chief Spence and also Communications Manager Karen Wester for a job well done on that story. But I believe when you watch that, it gives an excellent example of the quality of footage that is captured by the body-worn cams. The level of accountability and transparency that continues to add to our Division of Police, and the impact that it has on their operations and the ability to patrol in a manner that is really best practices for our residents and our community. So congratulate them on that story. Thank Channel 10 for covering that and for the nice job they did on that story as well. So we'll send you that link, and that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you. I would just note that Barica versus Gahanna was dismissed a year ago. That was the slip and fall at the Blues and Jazz Fest. I believe we had a very, very good summary judgment motion pending, and right before the judge decided they dismissed, they just refiled the next to last day from the 1 year filing that they had, so that case has been refiled now. So.
I guess that's thank you, Mr. Malarski. Council comment. Mrs. Angela.
Well, God bless those with cancer. And to respond, I'm actually wearing a bracelet for my nephew. And certainly when we see young children with cancer, it makes our hearts kind of pump a little harder. and tears come into your eyes. It was very, very moving today. Also, I think we ought to be praying for all the people of Afghanistan. I have nothing else to say.
Thank you. Ms. Bowers?
Yes, thank you. Thank you to the Mayor's Office for issuing the proclamation recognizing Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I had the privilege of attending the Flow for the Cure event at Friendship Park, hosted by Shannon Rout and her family. It was their first annual, what they hope to turn into an annual event, and it was so inspiring and just a perfect day. The weather was absolutely perfect. So hopefully we can all keep that on our radar to support this incredible organization, this incredible family going forward, and all the other things that have already been said about that. Sort of on that note, the Celebrate One is a nonprofit organization here in Franklin County that helps encourage children to thrive through their first birthday. Celebrate One is celebrating their 5th anniversary open house on Sunday, October 17th. Their facilities are up in New Albany, so save the date for October 17th. Related to that is an announcement about a mobile vaccine unit that will be at the Gahanna Sanctuary over September 17th, 18th, and 19th. The Walgreens and the Ohio Department of Health are partnering with the Gahanna Sanctuary to have a fully equipped mobile vaccine unit available for Pfizer COVID-19 vaccinations, along with Johnson & Johnson vaccinations. Those are, of course, optional, and of course, at your discretion. Currently, people ages 12 and up are eligible to receive vaccinations. Those are free to the public. Also occurring at the Gahanna Sanctuary, 17th, 18th, and 19th is the first nonprofit fair. Local nonprofit organizations will be in attendance to share information with guests about how to get involved and support nonprofits like Make Gahanna Yours and some others. October 23rd, I am excited that Mifflin Township Fire Department will again be partnering with SWACO for a prescription drug take-back day. That's going to happen here at Station 131, and more details will be posted in connection with Mifflin Township and Fire Department and SWACO. Lastly, I just, as we're past Labor Day now, I want to just remind everybody that local elections, I'm partial to this, but I think that local government matters a whole lot to our lives. Candidates are out getting their message out to voters and asking for your vote. That's part of democracy. I just ask that everyone continue to keep in mind that every candidate is worthy and deserving of respect as they participate in our incredible experiment in democracy. Our local governments, as you guys know, people who are paying attention to this, I'm preaching to the choir, but we're responsible for so much of our day-to-day lives, our kids' school, our safety, our waters and sewers, parks, the roads we drive on, et cetera, et cetera. So please make sure you vote on or before November 2nd, and please make sure that your voter registration is current on or before October 2nd. I've also released my constituent report for the month of August, which has been included as an attachment in the agenda and the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leesburg.
You caught me off guard. Yeah, I wanted to thank Officers Hoffman and Vasilla, who responded to my house last night for a glass break alarm that went off, and before we could figure out what was going on and cancel the alarm, my alarm company just called dispatch, and the guys were there in no time at all. Apparently our new kittens made a mess, knocked some things over, and it was such a ruckus that it set off the glass break. No cats were harmed, although I thought about it. But again, I wanted to thank our PD for the prompt and as Dennis Miller, or Dennis, the old chief, geez, how quickly we forget. As Dennis always said, Murphy, thank you. I was going to say Dennis Miller, I knew that wasn't right. Dennis Murphy always said, was he nice? Every time I got stopped by an officer, he said, all he wanted to know was he nice? The officers were great, and I just wanted to appreciate it. Let them know I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Renner?
I have nothing new to add to that.
Can't follow
We've
that.
had a lot of anecdotes of community, and I don't think I can add to it, so.
Mr. Schnetzer?
Sure. Mr. Renner, you weren't wanting to talk about the Royal Manor Block Watch?
Right.
All right, I'll steal your thunder.
No. Thank you for the reminder. I slept only 3 hours last night, so you're right. Thanks to Jason Rourke and a couple other residents on the west side. They put together a Royal Manor Block Watch. It's from the Royal Manor Block Watch page. Invited the chief and the mayor and a few other staff. The city was very well represented. Myself and Mr. Snetzer were there from council. And I want to say maybe 10-ish residents at best were there. And I want to definitely thank Chief Spence for answering questions from the residents and talking about public safety and the concerns of public safety on the west side because of its unique behavior where it is and what have you. So it was very well done and very well received by the residents. So. And Mr. Snetzer, thank you very much for that reminder.
No problem.
Mr. Schnetzer?
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to piggyback off of Councilman Renner and also extend my gratitude to the chief, Deputy Chief Lawless, Public Safety Director, as well as Officer Corbin and a handful of other officers that were there in attendance as well. I would just simply like to say I think the Gahanna Division of Police is very well represented at the top. I learned a ton. I'm not sure if you like the spotlight, Chief Spence, but I don't know if this community is aware you are the VP of the Central Ohio Chiefs Association. Is that correct? Yep. Right. So Gahanna has a seat at the table. It's a great thing. And also, I think one thing that the community probably should know more about is the pursuit of the CALIA standards. And if I get any of this incorrect, please correct me, but I understand that is the gold standard in professional law enforcement delivery, and we are approximately 95% of the way towards earning that certification. I also learned that only 15% of police departments in the country have earned that, so we would be in sort of rarefied territory once we ultimately achieve that. So kudos to you and your staff and your leadership in the division. I also would like to thank Gahanna Parks and Recreation, Stephanie, Tim, many other members that I crossed paths with down at Woodside Green for the litter cleanup that we participated in down there. It is really kind of eye-opening when you go off the beaten path, both figuratively and literally, to pick up trash, just how many acres of parkland exist in this community. Typically, when I go to Woodside Green, we make a beeline for the playgrounds or something like that. But when you walk all of the fence lines and all of the tree lines and things, you actually you see how large it is. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of maintenance. So thanks to Parks and Recreation for not only their participation in coordinating that event, but just for what they do day to day in maintaining and keeping our parks a nice place to visit. So that's all from me tonight.
Thank you. Mrs. McGregor?
I wanted to, a couple weeks ago, I got a message from a resident in the villas, and he had a lot of rain coming from the detention basin that's behind the movie theater in Stone Ridge. And he asked who oversees the detention basins if it's on private property. So I contacted Grant, and he told me that they were responsible, property owners are responsible for the maintenance, but that they inspected them every 5 years or so. And so he had sent me pictures that showed a lot of litter and trees overgrown. And so I don't know if actually Grant contacted Casto, but I have to thank Casto for the cleanup. I got a message yesterday. They said they cleaned it up. It looks great. And so I appreciate that. And I think that's good, because I didn't know. I mean, I know we have lots of detention basins, but I didn't really know before then who actually takes care of them. And then supporting Gahanna together was great. We had, at the historical society, we had volunteers. Brian was there, I was there. Gardening, we had painting, And then we also had a scout group working on Eagle Scout project, so it was a busy place on Saturday, and we appreciate all the help. Thank you.
Someday we're going to get the Lily Stone completely painted.
Yes, we will. 2 items. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk for a moment about 9/11. When folks that are a little bit older than I am think of what happened when John F. Kennedy was shot, they have a distinct memory of what happened or where they were at that point in time. For 9/11, I knew exactly where I was. I received a phone call from an employee saying a plane had hit the building. I have a passion for aviation. My immediate thought was a little Cessna or something. He said it wasn't something small. It sounded like it was something big. My responsibility at the time was managing operations for a contact center for a financial institution here in town. And so we pulled up televisions and had the news going on all day, and we watched the second plane hit the second tower. It's just a vision that one won't forget. Considering the responders and the loss of life there, the people that were in the building, the photos that I'm sure many of you have seen. What is interesting is I read an article, I think it was over the weekend, talking about the young people high school age or younger folks, don't recognize what the event was. They hear 9/11 and don't necessarily understand its impact and what occurred. It's interesting how different perspectives of different times, and while I certainly don't believe that we should live and breathe on the past, I think we certainly need to make sure that we remain cognizant of events that have happened in our country, in our lives, and make sure that we do all that we can to have as good a community, as good a people, and as good a society as we possibly can. In addition to that, Saturday I spent 3 hours shoveling dirt for the Historical Society. Certainly a organization that I have a great deal of passion for, and a nice group of volunteers that helped make the facility that much more welcoming for folks that come into town. For those that don't know, the Lily Stone is a bed and breakfast available for public use. It is used it helps raise funds for the Historical Society to sustain its facilities and to provide the services that the Historical Society does for the community. If you know anyone who's coming to town, it's a great location right in the heart of Gahanna. And with that, would ask for actually a short, I expect, executive session. Would ask for a motion to go into executive session under Council Rules 540A to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Schnetzer? Moved by Mr. Schnetzer, seconded by Mr. Leesburg. Any discussion? Roll call.
Schnetzer?
Yes.
Leesburg?
Yes.
Angelou?
Yes.
Bowers? Yes. Lyric?
Yes.
McGregor?
Yes.
Renner?
Yes.
Motion carries. I don't expect this to be extensive in duration, and I don't expect any legislation to come from this. Yeah. And just council.